Hello, everyone. I'm just continuing along with my book on how to be your own therapist. The 10 minutes of daily self-therapy I teach you in this book will be life-affirming and transformative. They will also be a time when your entire self will be acknowledged and accepted with compassion. Having said that, some of the questions, exercises, and suggestions in this book will be taking you out of your comfort zone. That's unavoidable. Therapy should get under your skin, in a good way. But here's the deal. It works. Think of it as a decluttering exercise for your mind to help you function better. Different therapists have different approaches, and I am going to teach you how to perform self-therapy in a very particular way, a way that other therapists might not. In short, the views in this book are mine. What I teach here is not representative of other views of any one professional or regulatory body. Instead, the work I'll be taking you through in this book takes an integrative approach based on my various trainings and professional experiences, and from knowing what works in a clinical practice. It's also informed by a range of therapy models rather than one single model, although I've taken care not to get too technical and stick with the straightforward language. This therapeutic approach will, I hope, bring case and sense of stability for interest. Models of therapy used here include cognitive behavioral therapy, compassion-focused therapy, mindfulness, and interpersonal psychotherapy. For anyone with a particular interest in different therapy models, there's a lot of useful information online, particularly on the website of professional therapy organizations such as www.bps.org.uk. I will explain fully every part of the process as I guide you through it in order, and I promise I'll avoid jargon, cliches, psychobabble as much as I can. I am also asking you to trust me, even in the moments when the questions I'm asking you may not make much sense, or if the process of doing the work makes you feel lousy. Therapy can be tough, but it should never overwhelm you. Work at a pace that's comfortable for you, and remember, there's no rush. You have the rest of your life to work on this. A final note before we begin. Throughout this book, I will share case studies aimed to provide support and help. It is for adults looking for a self-directed set of therapy tools to get the best from their day, their life, and themselves. It is also for teenagers with the support from their parents, whoever you were at. It will help, but it's not a substitute for one-on-one live therapy, which some people will unquestionably need. If you do feel you need one-to-one or group professional support, please prioritize getting help via your doctor or local mental health organizations. There's a list of support organizations included at the end of this book. Please also be mindful that it would not be sensible to engage with this work if you are feeling very overwhelmed, experiencing psychotic symptoms, feeling suicidal, or don't have adequate support around you. You will need professional help in these circumstances. It is also advisable to engage with this work if you are under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or any other unprescribed substances. Finally, all names, details, and case studies featured in this book have been changed. Any individuals or organizations mentioned have been anonymized to protect and respect client confidentiality. Part 1. What is this therapy malarkey? I'm going to teach you to become your own therapist and make therapy part of your life for 10 minutes every day. But before I do that, I'd like to talk about the shame and stigma surrounding therapy. I'm always intrigued when I meet a new client who says to me at the end of the session, "Wow, that wasn't so bad." It's usually men, kind of what we're talking about here. I always ask what they mean, as the preconceptions surrounding therapy fascinate me, and as you might expect, I've heard a range of responses back. Brace yourself. You seem like a normal guy for a therapist. It wasn't as weird as I expected. I'm surprised. We laughed. It wasn't all, "How did that make you feel?" You didn't seem shocked by what I said. You didn't hypnotize me. I thought you would just nod your head and say, "I understand." It made more sense than I expected. It wasn't all tears and feelings. I was expecting you to be a TWT and variations of that theme. It doesn't stop there. I sometimes avoid telling people in social settings what I do for a living. I find my occupation often either worries people, they think I'm mind reading or diagnosing them based on our small talk, or making them feel like they need to disclose their entire life story, or it freaks them out. When I worked as a clinical lead for an NHS therapy service, I learned that some words associated with mental health stopped people attending groups. For example, if we set up a group called Coping with Depression, it would be empty. If we set up a group called Boost Your Mood, it would be full. I work with clients who ask me to remove the word therapist from the invoice. I've even been asked to remove my title from the office door. Some patients are concerned about what others might think if they knew they were seeing a therapist. A medical doctor specializing in the body rather than the mind would be unlikely to get the same request, unless it was an area like sexual health. Therapists seem to be something of a dirty secret. I remember going for my first therapy session in my early 20s, a few years ago now, sneaking up the road, terrified someone would see me. I had the look of someone engaging in an illicit affair. Lucky my first therapist was a nun, dispelling any such potential rumors. Her office was in a convent. I was relieved when I discovered that because it was a useful cover-up, I could be at a confession of sorts. Being serious, though, I was ashamed that I needed help. I was ashamed that I couldn't work it out alone. I was concerned that others might think of me. I was ashamed I was struggling mentally with coming out. Well, I'm not coming out, that's what he's saying. This was complicated further with a cultural belief at the time, a belief which I internalized that men don't struggle. Boys don't cry. Which brings me to this. A lot of people consider it shameful to need therapy. I used to be one of those people. There's still a degree of stigma around ill health. Making the responsible choice to be in a therapy is still considered a sign of weakness or a failing. Otherwise, therapists and therapy are still quite mysterious to some people. Sadly, these negative preconceptions are mostly driven by fear. Public perception of therapy is a lot more positive now than it was 1 or 2 decades ago. More people are coming forward for help, but that stigma is still very much around. If you're feeling even a hint of this discomfort and anxiety I'm talking about, please let me help allay any nervousness that you might have right now. The truth is, despite the ongoing shame around it, every single person on the planet would benefit from some therapy. Even if you're the perfect content with your life, gaining the self-knowledge to understand why you're happy means you can rediscover what makes you tick. When life is less than rosy, everyone, no matter how wonderful the life might seem from the outside, will experience some seriously tough times. And it's not easy navigating those ups and downs. Sometimes we need support. That's why in this book, you will learn what therapy does to your brain and how it helps in a nutshell. The process of therapy in more detail, what you'll be doing in therapy. Okay, what therapy does to your brain and how it helps in a nutshell. I've worked for 30 years with people in distress. And what I've learned in that time is that it's the response to a negative experience rather than the experience itself that has the biggest psychological impact. Some people cope well and adjust to horrible experiences. Some people suffer deeply. I don't believe people choose to suffer. I believe some people are just programmed to suffer more than others, or get stuck in an unhealthful patterns or behaviors. How much a person suffers because of their response to negative experience could be linked to how they think, how they deal with emotions, what rules they have in place for their life, or how they behave. Most of these patterns are learnt or inherited as children and then carried into adulthood. You will learn more about this later. In essence, a lot of adults are going through life using childhood coping strategies, and that, in my experience, is the root of much human distress. The good news is therapy can change that. As thousands of research papers can attest to, therapy means standing outside your life and having a look inside, but doing so objectively. You can make fascinating discoveries about yourself when you play the formative events in your life back and begin to understand why you struggle. Therapy will encourage you to tell your life story and connect your experiences to what you struggle with today. It will help you understand patterns of thoughts, automated emotional responses, why you behave as you do, and how you can change what keeps you stuck. Each day in my practice, I see people trying to manage issues such as anxiety, depression, trauma, loss, relationship issues, and conflict. Therapy helps them unravel the cause of their pain and offers guidance that can ease their suffering. It is a collaborative process rather than a prescriptive one. The joy of modern therapy is that it uses strategies informed by the latest cutting-edge research in medicine, neuroscience, social sciences, and pharmacology. That is to say, we are a complex physical, emotional, thinking beings, and we need more than a psychological insights to help us function at our best. Good therapy should always be holistic in its approach, by which I mean it should consider the whole person.